Record. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us. We've got Yvette from Good Shepherd Microfinancing hosting tonight and our subject. So just a little bit of housekeeping before I hand over to her, just to let everyone know that tonight's session is going to be recorded. The recording will then be uploaded onto the Chamber's YouTube channel in the next week or so, and also passed on to Yvette along with your email addresses for her own marketing. None of this information will be passed on to anyone else. I've also, as I said, muted you all just so that we don't have any background noise. But at any time, if you have a question or there is some parts in Yvette's presentation that do require chat, there is a chat function down the bottom, and you can also raise your hand, which, if you don't know, is found in the Manage Participation button. So we will stop at those certain points, and there'll also be a Q&A at the end that we can go through any questions that we may have and re-clarify anything with Yvette that we want to go through. Tomorrow I'll be sending everyone a short survey. It should only take a minute or two to complete, but if you could all complete that for me, that would be fantastic, just so we can make sure that we're bringing our members and our guests what they want to see in terms of content, in terms of timing, in terms of business. So that would be greatly appreciated. So I will hand you over to Yvette now and enjoy. Yeah, I've got you on.
Hi everyone, thank you. Hi everyone, I've met a few of you before, Louise. I think I've met you at one of the meetings. And yeah, and please don't lose my voice now. I just wanted to, I suppose, share with you a bit of a story about why I'm doing this tonight. I'm just going to share my screen so you can see our presentation. Can everyone see that okay? Yep. Basically, it came about that I work for Good Shepherd and a program called Launch Me. And Launch Me is government funded. We have been running for about 2 to 3 years. It's a pilot sort of program to see how we can support people that are running businesses on low incomes or earning up to $45,000, how to really get them in a year's time. We work with them for a whole year to get them to start their own business and run it from start to sort of really earning profit, which is what our outcome is for all of us, I'm sure. So this came about because we're obviously seeing within a very short space of time, all these businesses close down or shut or choose not to move forward because of what industry they're in. So tonight's going to be really about some of the challenges around that, but also how we're working through what to do about them and how to help people. But hopefully you'll walk away tonight with some ideas on how to reflect on what you're going through, because all of us are in some form going through some adversity tonight or at the moment, but what to do next. So as I said, we're going to cover downturns and implications for business, adapting to change. We're going to talk about these 5 kind of options for business, and then we're going to talk about the 4 kind of resilience options that you have to move forward. If you want to, as I said, leave a question, Tamara will talk about those at the end. But what I'm going to do is be asking for you to contribute in chat tonight. And Tamara's going to come in at certain points and tell us what you're thinking. And then we'll come back at the end and, as I said, explore that a bit more. So my role, I've been in running businesses for about 35 years. People say you don't look that old. Well, I am. So don't worry, facelift's real. I started my first business when I was 17, and I've since worked in the travel industry, which was fantastic, for 25 years. What I learned in that industry was resilience 101. It was basically what's happened today? You know, what disaster do we have to face? What's going to happen, the next day? And to give you an example, we sent off about $50,000 the week before September 11 for a new travel agency I was starting. And September 11 happened, and I thought, and we agreed to rentals and so on. So I'm going to share with you some of the experiences that I had to face in those times. Within 2 years, we were up and running and our business was going well. And then we had SARS. So we closed down again. We didn't actually close. We kept working through it, and we worked on using some of that knowledge. After that, my husband was also running a welding company. There was a downturn in his industry. So I've met many challenges along the way, and I'd like to share, as I said, those with you. But the big thing I'm learning, even with my own clients at the moment, I work with about 30 of them, is you are not alone. So hopefully, again, we get through that tonight. Not sure if you can see, you can move your head if you can't see these. You can just pick up the picture and move it around your screen if it's in the way of these quotes and the presentation. I do like Winston Churchill. I think he's an amazing man. And this is one thing I'm really working with people on, is you are guaranteed that you will suffer in life, you will struggle, you will have to sacrifice something, and you will actually also have sorrow. But on the other hand, you will also have connection, and you will also experience, hopefully, love and support from your community. But this is a big one. Success is not final. It's always ongoing. Failure is not fatal. And it is the courage to continue that counts. So it's us moving forward through adversity that gets us to the other side. It's too easy, I think, at the moment to be isolated in our houses and think, we'll worry about that next week. But it is good to think about it. You don't have to necessarily worry or take too much on, but this is some of the things we're certainly seeing. So in each day in business, I'm sure many of you are meeting challenges. So in everyday life, we already deal with change in business. If you're running a business, you'll have change. This is the extra pressure, though, you're probably feeling from your business. So closures, financial pressures, that one is a big one. We're seeing quite a bit of that at the moment. Staffing, health and safety concerns, social distancing, working at home, bills, isolation. We were just talking about that before with Tiffany and Tamara, is juggling children and work. And what we do recognise in today's climate is that it actually is a bit overwhelming, and it can be quite challenging, but it's actually perfectly okay to feel that it's all just becoming too much. Why am I feeling this way? It's easy to go and grab a glass of wine to try and forget it all. However, it's not necessarily going to go away, but what we're hoping is that by giving you some tools tonight, you can deal with some of these challenges. So having no income is a big one. The long-term effects now, they're talking about unemployment going to 16%. Financial losses is in the billions, not millions. Laying off staff is happening every day, although the JobKeeper payments are helping. Bill and rental arrears are currently a big source of concern for commercial renters, plus even residential renters. Struggling with isolation, I'm sure we all have stories about that. Mental health is a real concern. So Good Shepherd sit in the mental health, the domestic violence, the financial capacity space. So we are actually seeing on the ground some of the issues around that. You may have had a job as well as your business, and losing that job is, no one is guaranteed a job. Probably the health and the school system may be guaranteed jobs. Construction's still up in the air, but we're hoping that will keep going. But business continuation is the next concern, because where do we go on the other side? So I wanted to share, or have you share with me, your major implication. I'm going to kind of give you an idea of what I'm feeling, and then I'd love you to share yours in the chat, please. So I'm actually, as I said, experiencing, I work with maybe 4 clients a day. I'm on a Zoom session for an hour and a half with most of them. And I'm seeing the gamut of problems that they're going through, from some just being told they have to leave, they may lose their rental. Mind you, that's now a moratorium on that. So to, they need food vouchers, to other people that are, how do you deal with JobKeeper? How do you actually get that? And yesterday I was working with someone on trying to just work their way through the system, because they were a working director, but they'd never taken director fees. And they hadn't paid themselves, so they weren't an employee. But they also had an ABN as a sole trader. So how do we get around that one? So we worked through it, and that's why I'd love to hear, if you could, your major challenge. If you could share it in the chat, please. So I'm unsharing my screen so you can find your chat. And pop it in, and Tamara will come back on.
So can everyone see where the chat function is down the bottom?
So please engage in the thought around your major implication. It can be for you personally, or it can be for your business.
So we've had one come through that clients are now putting everything on hold. Balancing work and family is a big one. Completing the first 12 months of business in travel. Going from building to surviving. The inability to sit down with clients and discuss issues, which is a bit harder to do over Zoom as it feels less personal. So some great ones there for you to discuss, Yvette.
Right. And that's the common thread we're seeing is survival is actually quite interesting. We will talk about that in a little while. That's further on in our presentation. What we're also seeing in the community is, I suppose, that feeling of overwhelm. You know, what do you do? Are we waiting? Which in this case, a lot of us are waiting for the next sort of step. What do we do is based on what the government might do, or what we do is based on whether our clients come back, or what we do next is based on, you know, does the schools take the children back at the moment? So that waiting can be quite challenging, and so we need to be thinking about how we adapt to change. And adapting to change is very interesting, because I went back and had a good look at some of our past forefathers that have been here before us. And what I learned, you'll get access to this presentation too, is what I've learned is that we have experienced untold ups and downs. For 70 years of tracking CPI, which is an amount of services and goods that the government agreed that this is what we're actually going to base sort of economic outcomes on and economic decisions on. And so what we see here is 1950 after the Korean War boom. So when that peak is actually the baby boomers coming in to it, or the families coming to Australia, having their babies, having jobs, be guaranteed jobs. And what we actually saw after that sort of 1950 Korean War boom is the downside of that was that unemployment came in, quite dramatic unemployment actually. And then we saw other recessions coming into play. 1960 there was one that was again a little peak and then out. And then we've got the OPEC oil price shock, which went up, and then it creates unemployment, inflation, and it's going crazy all over the place within that sort of 1970s right up to 1990. Not sure if anyone remembers that. The late 1980s was, you know, high house, sorry, I'll get it right. The price of houses were quite low, but the interest rate was enormously high. So you could buy a house, yes, for whatever it was, you know, $60,000, $70,000, you know, but you were paying 18% interest. So what we're seeing is that governments and Australia in general have gone through ups and downs. But what's happened with our fiscal policy, which is great for business in Australia, is we have had stability for 30 years. And that 30 years is back to around 1991, just after that recession, that the government said, let's just try and sort out our growth strategies. And so they really encouraged small business, and they really encouraged people to go out and actually put themselves into small businesses. That changed a little bit where they made contracting available. and they moved us forward by doing this. For the last 30 years, we've had the longest uninterrupted GDP, gross domestic product growth in any country, which is pretty astounding considering that there's been recessions, there's been the Asian financial crisis, there's been the introduction of the GST, SARS and barley bombings and droughts and floods and financial crisis. We've got through, and we've done that because we're resilient as a country. And that resilience comes through because we are this. We are very clever at doing these things if we're running a small business. What we're forced to do at the moment, though, is kind of face that. We have to actually say, let's wait for what's happening. We can't do anything further. How can we move forward in the future? But we can't use our resilience because we don't quite know yet. So what I'd like to explore is your feeling of resilience at the moment. Do you feel resilient? Do you see a vision for yourself? Do you have good composure at the moment? Do you think, yep, everything's going to be okay, I'll get through this? Do you have good problem-solving resources? Are you sleeping okay? Are you tenacious? Are you really thinking, yep, it's going to be fine, we're going to get through this and be on the other side and it'll be okay? And do you have good collaboration or good support networks? Because if you do, you'll be able to do this, plan and make strategies. So having that optimism for the future means that you'll be able to go, well, for now, I can still have those things that I really like, which is stay healthy. You know, in my case, I laugh with my family. I have virtual dinners, these strange virtual dinners where we get together. But I only focus on my job from 9 till 4:30 on a Monday to Friday, except tonight. Tonight I've made an exception. So what I'd like to know is share how you're being resilient. Are you feeling resilient in the chat? And I suppose another word is optimism. So are you feeling optimistic? If you're not, why not?
Well, I'll go first with mine, kick everyone and on off. I'm very much like Yvette. Monday to Friday is my working hours, and my husband and I, we both turn our phones and computers off Friday afternoon and don't look at them again so we can reconnect with our family, and that's the way we're getting through. So we've had another one come through. It depends on the day, very much with you there. Some days I'm very determined to work on all the things that I didn't have time to do before to make sure I come out bigger and better on the other side, and other days not so much. We've got another one here, taking the opportunity to research, learn, write and design new programs. Family time is great and more social interaction than normal.
Anyone else want to share?
Another one who said it can vary from day to day, a massive roller coaster at the moment. Walking and exercising more than I ever have. I like that one. There are going to be two types of people after this, prison fit and prison fat. And I'm planning on being prison fit. I like that very much.
That's great. So that's excellent, because I think what we've got to recognise is we can take this as an opportunity to just readjust ourselves, because change is great in different ways. It means that we can either, yep, do you want to read that one out? There was another one, Tamara.
Yep, so enjoying the extra family time, but the phone is always on with emails and calls disrupting.
So resilience requires those things in terms of, give me 1 second, I'll reshare. So in terms of resilience, what we're looking for is to be on the other side of COVID or coronavirus or COVID-19 and come out with the feeling of there's something that we we're looking forward to. So a big one we really want to think about is maybe not now the vision is that we run our business and do the best that we can and try and run it regardless of everything going on. That's not a great way to think. However, it is good to think what it's going to look like in the future. So we're going to explore a little bit of that and those strategies and planning for business. And some of the things that we've discovered with our cohort in our program is that we've sort of said there's 5 key things people are kind of moving towards. And they're making decisions based on those 5 key things. But someone might decide to do 1 or 3 or 2 of them. It doesn't have to be all 5, and it could be one or the other. And we're seeing it is moving towards this one is a common, sorry, not this one. That one seems to be a common thing, is hibernate your business. But let's talk about business as usual. Now, a lot of businesses, unless you are in the health, even health has been impacted, but unless you're in something that people are wanting, it's not business as usual. It's, well, we may as well do something different. So we're going to talk about the ones that are business as usual. Can you continue to operate as normal? So if we're talking about a vision for the future, at the moment, are you continuing to operate as normal? If you can't, then we'll talk about what that looks like. But if you can and stay the same, have you got an opportunity to grow? So this is what I couldn't believe, that what has happened is there's these major areas in industry or in business that have actually thrived. And they are things like food delivery services, couriers, cleaners, health services. I couldn't get over this one, perspex barrier makers. So the ones in the supermarket that have made all those perspex barriers, wow. Gardening services, there are opportunities out there. And what has happened is those HelloFresh and Deliveroo that we're all thinking, you know, why do people do that? It's now obvious why they're doing that. Chemists are doing delivery services. You know, there's a broad range of things that people can do as usual. But we're seeing this being the common thread, which is hibernating your business. Is it better to hibernate your business? What will it take to put it on hold until a later date? How long can you hibernate for? These are all questions people are asking themselves at the moment. What supports are available to cover costs? So, and how will you look after staff? If you've got employees, how do you actually then support them through this? And what date in the future will you reopen? So hibernation seems to be what the government want us to do, and they're throwing money at us to do this. So it's not a lot of money, but it may get some businesses through. And what we're seeing with this one is the supports available are things like your JobKeeper. There's grants. There's the cash flow boost that's available if you're a company with staff. So I'll be interested to ask in a moment how many of you have staff or are employees or are sole traders. So my question is, could you put in there whether you're an employer or a sole trader or another entity into the chat, please.
We've got 2 sole traders so far. We've also got an employer. Maybe if you're an employer, if you could give us an indication of how many staff, that would be great. So we've got another employer here with 1 staff member.
Yep. So the thank you so much, everyone. So the option at the moment with hibernation, which I'll give you the information later as I go through this, is that to look after staff. A lot of people are going, how do I do this? So if you're an employer and you've been doing a GST statement last year, there is opportunity around getting the cash flow boost, which is a $10,000 payment paid at the end of this month. If you're a sole trader, you have access and you have no income, you have access to the JobKeeper payment if you were employed and you've done a tax return. Sorry, not employed. If you were running your business as of the 1st of March, but did a tax return last year. So there's some interesting things going on with hibernation. So we are seeing the support there. It's just accessing it is what a lot of people are trying to figure out at the moment. That's probably the number one issue with it. The one thing I'd take away from this slide is, what date in the future do you think you'll reopen? So we say that's a good vision to have, because in the future it will come and there will be a date. The government will say, we're going to open the doors now, but it'd be good for you to have a date in your mind. You can always move it, but it's about planning for that now. So having an idea of when you might reopen, using all the support networks that are there, but have something in place. The other thing that a lot of businesses are doing is a pivot. So has anyone pivoted their business? Got to get an idea of that, please. Like, you've done something different within your business. It's usually doing the same thing, but slightly different.
So we've got one yes here. So more virtual interaction. So for example, coaching, mentoring, how to host workshops, that kind of thing. I know for Tiffany and myself with the chamber, we've moved our chamber events like tonight online. So we have, in a sense, pivoted.
Yeah. And that seems to be the common thread with pivoting. That what we're seeing though is some really interesting changes around pivoting from the perspective of some businesses are actually selling online, delivering to customers and changing their product or processes. So I had a good example of a manufacturer that went in and actually applied for the government support to actually produce a part to a ventilator. So they actually 3D printed. Another one was doing masks. What do they call them? I can't think what they're called, but they're basically, they sit on your glasses and they'd modified it all, 3D printed it. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. So what I think this is about is, it's a question around, we don't know how long this thing can go for. We think our business will start in this time frame. That's our hope. We think we'll get it started again at this time frame, but we'll look the same. So the question you'd be asking yourself now is, does the business need to change its current model to meet the challenge of COVID-19? And what does that look like if it's a pivot? So going online is great. One thing we're seeing is a lot more ebooks. We're also seeing access to, look at takeaway shops. Look at restaurants. They're now doing takeaway and delivery. And, who'd have thought you'd get your beautiful wine and your risotto turn up at your door from your local restaurant? It's not a common thread, but it's happening. And it seems to be quite helpful to get these businesses through to the next side. The next thing is an alternate. So this is a plan B. Do you work, or do you get a job or employment or education while you're doing what you're doing? Who's doing education at the moment? Anyone? So any training, any upskilling online, any webinars like this?
It doesn't have to be formal education. It could be reading blogs, could be joining on webinars like Yvette said. Anyone got any good tips on what they're doing education-wise? I've got one here, definitely one webinar a day and more podcasts. In a writing club, writing as in not writing, enrolling into free short courses, it's a good one. Webinars, Udemy lessons, industry courses. Industry specific courses are always a good one.
Yep. And I'm sure there'll be many more from the chamber coming up as well.
Yes, most definitely.
So these ones are great because what we're doing is retraining, or we're learning something while we're trying to get through this next sort of time frame, because we again don't know how long. Another one is this can bring us in extra income. So a lot of people haven't realised, but there's this massive need for mentors out there at the moment. So what happened is business is saying, well, we don't know how to get through this. So organisations like the Small Business Mentoring Service is saying we need more mentors, because people are needing to understand how to meet the challenges of what others are going through. They also need access to valuable skills, because quite often the small businesses, very small businesses that are haven't got formal training or have run a business, sole traders. I know my son's got a welding company or a welding business. He's a sole trader. But what he doesn't do the books. He doesn't want to do any accounting. So accountants are in demand at the moment. So learning bookkeeping or understanding how to run books is helpful for another business owner. So it can generate some income, because there is income going to come into those people's bank accounts through government support as well. The final one is this government support. So there's ways to receive support: JobKeeper, JobSeeker, Cashflow Boost, employer supports. There's so many government grants. The $10,000 grant's another one coming out of Victoria. And the other one which we're seeing a bit of is loans. Part of Good Shepherd is actually, we do nil interest loans. We're currently working on some supports in the future for people to pay or gain access to some nil interest loans that are not going to be specific for products. So we used to lend out money for washing machines and things like that. This is actually for paying debts, or paying bills. And it's a nil interest loan. So you're not having to go and get it from a bank and pay a fortune, and nor payday lenders. And that's something we say, please avoid, because they're not good ideas. Waivers and deferrals are good. Deferrals are not a great idea. If you can get a waiver on anything, please, do it, because that's where we're seeing businesses are struggling. They are going to have to pay bills in the future. So my question would be is, which option will you choose? Is it to stay, hibernate, pivot, alternate, or receive? Or will it be a combination of these? Would you pop it in the chat? What you'd like to do would be another one, sort of question to that one, where you may have decided to hibernate, but might think, well, I might want to pivot.
So we're continuing to pivot and currently looking into grants, a combination of pivot and receiving grants and assistance.
Yeah, anyone else?
Trying on the grants and assistance, but just shy of the 12-month requirements.
Yeah. Anyone else? So I'll keep going. We'll explore a bit more of that in the future, as in at the end, because it does sort of go into it a bit further. So what happens next? So we may decide we want to do a government receive some form of payment, and then we also want to pivot our business, or we want to continue doing something with our business. Our bills don't tend to go away, sadly. So the next stage is planning, budgeting, surviving, or, well, in the case of all of you, I'd love to see you thriving. So if we talk about planning, the best thing to do at the moment, as much as everybody's going, we're waiting, it's still a good idea to make a plan. So start to set some key strategies or goals for now and for the future, and get ready for when you reopen. The CPA, I've put some links on these that it doesn't work, but it will work when you click it on your own. The CPA offers some really good information on a checklist. Has anyone seen that at this point in time? Yes or no? So it's this CPA Australia, and it's really a checklist on what to do for contingencies. Yes, no? Okay.
The general consensus seems to be no, Yvette.
Right. So I'm going to show you something in a minute of something I've been developing, but I'll keep going with this. So make a plan, any plan. So with our planning at the moment with our organisation, it's actually interesting. We're business as usual online. That's our plan. So how are we going to deliver this in the future? It's interesting. We probably won't go back to working out of an office every day. That's going to be an interesting exercise for all of us, because keeping cars off roads might be a good benefit to the government and to, you know, all these people that are spending all this money getting around. So making a plan might be that, yeah, it could be that you go back to working with people partly by Zoom, partly by going and seeing them, partly by doing other things. Another one is budgeting. So regardless of any business, it's a good idea now to start looking back at your cash flow, your personal and business cash reserves. And again, CPA have got some information about that as well. And another one which we're working with our clients on is this wise spending plan. So with receiving a government payment, I'm not sure if anyone's noticed, but while you're at home, you tend not to spend any money, or not as much. Has anyone else felt that? Or are you spending more while you've been at home? So are you spending more or less money at the moment?
So we've had people mainly say less, and way less. And the biggest one obviously is no petrol costs. Less, but not much less. We've had a few say about the same, shifted more to food bills and higher power bills, etc. Obviously, with everyone being home. And I like that one. Hard to tell. Online shopping is tempting, very much so, especially when you can't sleep at night, and online shopping is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Very, very true.
Very true. Interestingly, out in the consensus is that people are worried and that they are holding on to their money. If you are running a business, though, the bills don't stop, as I've been saying. So it's also very imperative you do a cash flow statement. So you still have to work out what your bills are costing you, and then work out what your income will cover. And if that income is coming from a government payment, make sure you can cover your costs. If you can't, there are supports out there, and I'll show you where those are. So in terms of meeting some of these challenges, the big one is survival. So if you don't have access to government payment, I noticed someone didn't, how do you survive? I'm going to show you this website in a minute that I've built that I've got quite a lot of supports on, and how we actually, you get help. Another one is, how do you pay your JobKeeper staff if you have no cash flow? You know, it's a big question we're seeing out there for business. And where can you get help? So this survival is one of the ones that is key for everybody. It was interesting when SARS came into my business way back when, in 2003, I think it was. We were literally shut down overnight, and the travel industry didn't get any extra money. We didn't get anything. We kind of had to go, how do we survive? We took pay cuts. But what was the biggest thing for me, and it taught me the biggest lesson, is you have to have some cash reserves somewhere. So even if you get a government payment, but you're getting this extra money. So, well, sorry, it's not probably as much as you've earned in your business, but you're getting something from the government, but you're spending less. Try and save, because we don't know what the future is going to look like. Paying those electricity bills might be a little bit higher. Paying to get staff back up and running, paying for extra things to get your business back up is going to need every dollar the government gives you. So we highly recommend, first thing first, try and save any money or spare money you have, because none of us know whether our jobs will be there in the future. Another thing that we suggest with thriving is, how do you get beyond the next step? Well, the first thing is you do look after yourself. So I love the whole idea of whether you come out of this as being really fit and healthy, or whether you come out of this not that healthy or not. If you can, look after your well-being, because it's very important. And be innovative. This one is number one. Offer new services, products, or a way of doing business. If you have to go and learn how to put things online, my husband's teaching people how to weld online. How do you teach someone how to weld online? I don't know, but we figured it out. So we've got him doing little things, and we're doing little videos, and your phone is a camera with this fantastic video function in it. So use it and start to use those platforms that are really helpful, such as, this. You can actually film yourself. You just set yourself up doing Zoom and you film yourself. You don't have to have anyone else on it. And you record it, and then you download it, and then you take it to YouTube, which is free. So those things are innovative, and we want to see people doing innovative things. Products, a client of mine, she had a salon, but she does these candles, and in these little candles that she was selling, and we talked about it, and I said, why don't you sell a candle kit, how to make the candles? Well, she's selling out on these things because people want things to do. So we've got to be thinking differently, and the other way to do that is using our network. So using these people around us that actually have really good knowledge, the chambers. Chamber of Commerce are fantastic. There's plenty of opportunity to get access to fantastic tools. The Chamber of Commerce in Victoria is now free. So it used to be $700 a year. It's now free of charge. So what I would suggest is, you might want to do any one of those things. Do you keep going, which is the main question? But it's how we respond to this adversity that will define our future. And I love the Winston Churchill quote, when you're going through hell, keep going, because there will be something on the other side. So my other question would be, which option do you think you'll take? Do you want to sit still, or do you want to keep going with your business? Pop it in the chat, please.
Yep, the general consensus here is keep going, which is a great attitude from everyone. And keep going and growing. Definitely keep going, a great opportunity to work differently.
Yep. And I love hearing that, because that's that resilience Aussies are really well known for, and we keep going. We keep going despite all the issues that are going on around us. And the final thing I'll leave you with is, sorry, I'm going to stop sharing and take myself out of that for a moment. The final thing I'm going to leave you with is, when I came back from my holiday, so I've been away for 3 weeks in March, I had already built, I do websites as a hobby. So I work in my job, I run a company, and then I do this hobby. I don't know when I have time to do those things, but I find it. And what I did was, after the bushfires in January, I built a website to help people find information for the bushfires. So what it looks like this. So I did a revamp of that for the COVID issue. I thought, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go through and find all these helpful things that are going to help people find their way around it. And this is what it is. It's called COVID-19 Help. Hopefully those that haven't got the cameras on can see this. I'm not sure if you can. But the way it works is, what do you need to do if you need financial support? Well, these are the steps. consider another job. Well, there are job opportunities because I've gone and found them. You know, there's all these different options here. But then the Jobs Hub for government, health workers, defence workers, NEIS have got, if you want to run your own little business, you get money from NEIS, Working for Victoria, and there's others as well. So these supports are there. Money Smart give you some amazing tools to use. There's things like, you know, if you want to access any of these government payments, how you do it, you go and get a MyGov account, you do this intention or online claim, you then go and do your Centrelink payment, your access to this 750 economic support is there. There's a supplement, there's a crisis payment if you're struggling, there's payment and service finders, there's JobKeeper, there's superannuation, there's thousands, you know, hundreds of them that there's access to. The other thing we're seeing is people are struggling, as I'm seeing with some of my very low income earners, to find food. So what I put in here is there's a food one. Where do you go to find food support? There's this thing called Ask Izzy. If you click on that, it takes you to this little thing and you then put in, I need food, and is it for me? Where do I live? You know, if it's for Dandenong, yes, and done. And I want a food parcel, and there's all the places that do food. So I'm not going to go hungry. So what we've tried to do with this, and it's in collaboration with my organisation, is this is updated now with all government websites, information support websites, all the things you need that relate to the thing you need in terms of help. Business support. So we're putting together all the business resources at the moment. These are some of the programs people are doing, and this is the CPA one. So this has got all their detailed tips for managing COVID. They've got this fantastic checklist, and it basically asks you all these things that you need to know, how to identify, you know, possible action that you need to take. So do you think you'd find something like that helpful?
Yep, very much so, absolutely.
Great. And so that's why I'm moving forward, and I, like you, am not giving up. I'm sitting, as I did for 4 weeks, just churning in contacts about all those things and wanting to help people. And for that reason, I think we've got to help each other. So do keep connected through the chamber, start to share your experience, start to connect and try and reach out to those that need that help, because there are plenty of people that are feeling really overwhelmed by this situation, and that overwhelming feeling, they're not quite sure how to get themselves out of it too. And that's it for me. So hopefully, I'm just going to put up my slides again. Sorry, 1 second. Just going to make that from there. So if you are, we are open to questions. And there's my contact details, which will be on the slide. And I'm available for a chat tomorrow night if anyone's interested, from 7 o'clock. My meeting ID will open up at 7. If no one comes on after 10 minutes, I'll turn it off. But otherwise, I'm there. So any questions?
Thanks, Yvette. I've just opened up now, so the Q&A portion in the chat. So perhaps if you've got something that you want to ask Yvette, just pop your name in and I'll unmute you. It might be easier to ask in person, or if you prefer to chat, that's fine as well. Just let me know in the chat portion there. Otherwise, if you don't have any questions, maybe you just put a note in there so we're not all sitting around wondering who's going to ask first.
Welcome. Thank you. So I suppose take away one thing at the moment, that you're not alone, that, you know, your business will be impacted as most people's are, unless you've got a food delivery business that's, you know, well established. It's going to be a challenging 3 to 6 months and maybe into next year. Notwithstanding, we're all in isolation as well. Reach out to your families, give them, you know, virtual hugs if you can, because that's the deal. You know, we all are trying to use these online platforms, and I found that's the fun bit, and laugh, because you know what else can you do? There's no sort of other option at the moment. My husband did the funniest thing the other day. I probably won't share what it is, but I was on a screen. I've got a window behind me, and I had a client on the screen, and he was doing these very rude gestures in the background, and I was laughing my head off, thinking, how am I going to stay serious in front of this client? And, you know, that's what life is. I've had another colleague of mine, his kids were climbing all over him as he's doing a video session for our Facebook. You know, that's life. So we've just got to go with it. So one last thing, if we can unmute everybody tomorrow, that would be great. I'd like to hear people's voices. I'd like to say good night to you all, and please stay safe.
Thank you, Yvette.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, and
Nice
thank
to
you
meet
all
you
for
all.
joining us for our first webinar.
It was brilliant. Thank you.
Well done, Tiffany and Tamara. Thank you. Thank you, Yvette.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louise.
The slides will be up. I'll give it to Tamara. She'll pop them up. Tomorrow, I think tomorrow, did you say?
Yep, we'll get those up and running into you all as well. And look out for the video in case there's anything that you want to revisit on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like us on Facebook and on LinkedIn at the moment. And we hope to see you all for the next one.
Thanks, Tamara.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks.